Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. Our monthly regional abatement, OSF regional abatement meeting slash OSF LGU conversation. As far as regional abatement goes, I hope that folks received their letter. So letters did go out on Monday for Regional Abatement 2025. A reminder to folks who may not have been part of the conversation we had about this previously, you'll note and you'll see in the award letter that there are amounts listed for state fiscal year 23, 24, and 25. I think as expected, there is and always will be some reconciliation that's happening from year to year with regard to the appropriations. Based on the timing of the settlements that are coming in and the process that the state goes through, we sometimes have additional dollars made available under certain appropriation years. And that is exactly what you saw on the award letter this time around. So there were dollars that were made available due to a CVS settlement as well as the Malincrot settlement that impacted the 23 and the 24 amounts. And so we will every year go through an exercise of reconciling the previous year's abatement. So we basically went through a process of looking at how much had we made available in 23 and 24, how much do we see now in appropriations in the amount available 23 and 24 based on this, reconciliation with these two settlements, what's the difference? And then obviously making it available in the year that we reconcile. So that was the process that we went through. We're, again, going to have to do that every year. And I can tell you already in our, working with DOB, there's one particular, settlement or a portion of the settlement. Don't ask me to be certain how to frame it, but there are dollars that we know were expected in 2025. It's not yet available, but they are part of the 25 appropriations. And so we know that in 26 next year, we will reconcile the 2025 amount and there will be some additional dollars available. So, so yay for how complicated this process is. I think that we all knew this was going to kind of always continue to evolve, and that is the case. So great that folks have their letter. Any questions about that process or receipt of the letter? We anticipate that payments will be going out later in October. I think that's the case. Looking for Debbie and Lucia to affirm that. So any questions about your award letter, the amounts, or anything like that?
Constance, it's Nicole. I just have one thought to share on that. So I hear that you're saying that you anticipate that the 2025 amount will likely increase once the reconciliation is done in a subsequent year. The problem with that is to plan to spend that money without having it or having in a letter that says we're going to get it on a county level to be able to contract those dollars out for programs without having the funds or even having a letter saying I'm going to get those funds creates a problem on our end, because that means the county needs to commit local share to that. Even if in the end it gets replaced, but the process of getting a contract approved, that's requiring dollars that I don't have, nor do I have a letter that I'm going to have.
So from my perspective and just my understanding, and understood, right? You don't want to you can't contract dollars that you can't encumber dollars that you don't yet have. So completely understand that. So in that case, and given that these dollars don't expire, this will be, as you become aware of the money, then you can plan for that spending in future. So right, and we can't necessarily give you what that amount is either, right? Because we don't know when settlements are going to be finalized. We don't know when the dollars will ultimately be made available. So, so there's nothing more we can do. And so what my suggestion is, don't plan to use dollars until you have those dollars and know that those dollars don't expire. The other thing is that we're not so far, we're not talking about, monumental amounts of money. It's a relatively small amount that is being reconciled each year. So I don't think it would be enough to, to prevent you from doing your planning and your contracting. I would look at it as like, oh, I got a little extra that I can work with, going forward. Debbie, do you want to add?
I was going to just jump in too, Connie, if I may. This came up, some of this discussion came up in the very beginning of when we, received the opioid settlement fund and received our first allocation of, what would be in the regional shares and how we determined to share that with all the LGUs, right? And it was often said, well, how can we project what we'll get in the future years? And, there is a projection, right? DOB provides that at the OSFAB meetings. And so, you could make some assumptions of like what percentage you've been receiving and say that that's the same as a projection, right? And so budgeting, all the people who do budgeting is like, it's a magic of making budgets. And all the people who do accounting always are like, why do we work in this fictitious world of budgeting, right? Because accounting is like accounting for the actual dollars that you have. So that struggle, is just always going to be there because we do have a projection. You can look at that projection and make some assumptions to say, hey, if I need to try to get appropriations so that I can spend in a future year, you could, say, I think it's going to be about this amount. But also, we're limited by the fact that our state does a 1-year budget. So we could never pay you on a future year anyway. We can only pay you in the current fiscal year. And if you look at the appropriations, it has a certain dollar amount associated. I think it's around 26 million for total amount that would go to local subdivisions, right? So we can never make more money available than that anyway. So what we're saying is that we're giving you a letter now that trues up 23 fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24 and also provides the 25 allotted amount, and that that's the amount for your year. And we make an assumption that we will often be making truing up of like previous years where you'll get a little added while we're giving you the current year's allocation. So you could look at it like it's an amount for the current year because for your, from your perspective, you could say, I'm going to put this money in. It's for holding on how to do abatement in your county. And, Connie made very good points on like the money doesn't go away. You don't have a time limit on how you spend it. And all we can do is tell you what's the current year's amount. So, that's just how the process is going to work because we only do 1-year budgets.
Thanks, Debbie. Any other comments or questions? I appreciate the fact that we are all working together in this very imperfect process that is going to go on for a number of years. And, and I've said this, from the beginning, that this is going to continue to evolve. This is a very long-term endeavor that we are all part of, and we need to work together to make the best of it. Because again, it's going to go on for quite a while. And there are aspects of this we have no control over, right? OASAS doesn't have control over it. You guys don't have control over it. So we'll make the best of it as we go. I wanted to check in on direct share reporting. So wanted to provide an update to folks with regard to our collaboration with the Attorney General's office with regard to the direct share. So these are the dollars that go directly to the counties. This is not regional abatement. I'm not talking about the dollars that pass through OASAS. But these are the direct share amounts. People refer to them as the AG dollars, the direct share dollars. So far, those are the two references that I'm most familiar with. What were you saying, Lucia? You're not.
The AG says restricted direct share.
Right. So thank you for making that distinction. So there's actually an unrestricted direct share and a restricted direct share. So, so talking about the direct share, we have worked with the AG's office to establish reporting. And actually, if we can think back to, I think that, 2 years ago, when we weren't clear yet on what was happening with reporting on the direct share, we included that in the reports that we asked for all of you to complete. And we acknowledged that you may not have knowledge of the direct share. You may not have control or decision-making happening around the direct share, but we asked just to make sure we had a process in place for saying something about direct share. We did include that in the report that we asked you to complete. Some of you had information, some did not. And so in working with the Attorney General, we said, we need to know who you sent the money to and who your contact person is for reporting, because you can't assume it's the LGU, because we already knew from you guys that that wasn't always the case. And so we have worked with the Attorney General to get a contact list. And we are prepared to send out the reporting link to that list of contacts so that we can request reporting on the direct share. Again, our process is evolving. I know that when Erica Giles had sent out an email about this, and I know, some counties where they have information said, but I did report it, right? I did report on the direct share because I had that information. That is not the majority of the cases, however. And so we do want to streamline this process. We do want to get to a point for the reporting for next year so it's clear and we know who's reporting on what, and we want to try to eliminate redundancies. And so in talking about the best way to do this, what I expect, and kind of putting it out there for reactions, is that we will remove the direct share reporting from the LGU regional abatement report form, so that when we send that link to you for reporting, it's only on regional abatement. And then we will have our list of contacts for direct share, and we will send out a link for direct share, restricted direct share reporting from those contacts, knowing that some of them are the LGU. But we thought it easiest to keep it as two separate functions now that we have a contact to reach out to on direct share reporting. So we thought that would be the cleanest and easiest way of doing this. I do want to reiterate that for direct share, it is restricted direct share only that we are asking for our counties to report on. Unrestricted, you can spend as you wish, and I think, Lucia, we have the amounts for restricted versus unrestricted. Is that true? We don't. It's all one lump amount.
I don't want to comment on what we think the amounts for unrestricted are, but yes, we have the amounts for restricted.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And yeah.
We will make clear that it's about the direct restricted that we are asking and what that dollar amount is. Obviously, it's going to, be rolling, right, for each year. So the link that we're sending out this week is for reporting on dollars that were set in 2023. Yeah. So we are going to get the reporting cycle in sync with what we're asking of LGUs for regional abatement. So this report is for 2023. In the spring, when we ask LGUs for reporting on regional abatement, we will also be asking direct share contacts about that. Okay, so hopefully that's clear enough. Nobody says it's clear as mud, but hopefully it's a little more clear than that. Again, our process is evolving. Any questions about the direct share reporting?
Hi, good morning. This is Daisy Cologne from the city of Yonkers. I guess the information doesn't get trickled down sometimes. And so some of us that are responsible for gathering certain information may not be in the loop where things are being transferred to or being sent. So, and then when the reporting is due or the link is due, we get it at the end and we're rushing to try and get this information. I guess I have a concern that you're going to be splitting the reports and then, not sending to everybody. I don't mind the split of the report, but I think everyone should be kept in the loop regardless of where they are in that contact, because many of us are not, at the mayor's level or the commissioner's level, but we have to gather that information and we are ultimately will be responsible, even if someone else is certifying, but we're gathering the information. I have a concern that we will be out of the loop, and then when you need the information, it gets, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but
Oh,
I don't know if it's, but I'm just like a little concerned because, I am tasked with trying to gather information. And at the end of the day, if I don't know exactly where, what the deadlines and all of that or what is needed,
so
even
you're
though
here.
someone else is certifying.
Right.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're in the right place, right? You're here, you're attending this meeting, you're getting the information directly from us, and you know what the timelines are and what the process is. So that's fantastic. I think that I'm comfortable, unless somebody else from OASAS says, no, we can't, I'm happy to share with you who the contact is that we've been given for the direct share reporting, for your awareness, because that person should somehow, be coordinating within your city or your county, coordinating to get the information for the reporting. And again, this is our first year doing it this way, and so great for you all to be aware of it. And also, I thank you in advance because you are also going to probably be helpful in making sure or talking with folks about the direct share reporting. You may be the one who is the most aware and has the most information and best understands what the expectation is. So, so great if you can help to facilitate the process of getting that direct share report in and done. We can share with you who the contact is who's going to receive the link for the direct share report, so you know who that person is. If that can help to facilitate and coordinate at the local level in terms of reporting, then great. I well recognize that the person that is identified by the AG's office as the contact, it could be the county attorney. It could be, another county executive. It could be a fiscal person, right? So what then, right? And two, I appreciate what you're saying because they're like, oh yeah, I got this thing I have to report, but then it's you who actually has the information, right? And who will truly be doing the report. I do expect our contact list will evolve for direct share. And I also think at a local level, there'll be discussion and coordination and figuring out who should be reporting, right? And maybe ultimately counties decide and cities decide, yes, there's a designated person to do all the reporting, right? So again, it's an evolving process. If you have questions, if you don't hear anything, if you're concerned, reach out to us. Reach out to the project management mailbox, and we'll be in touch with the AG's office, and we'll work to get as much of the reporting in as we can. So I totally get what you say, that things don't always translate and get all the way to the point of where the person's responsible and has the information. So we'll do our best.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions about direct share reporting? All right, so then moving on, let's see. We had a conversation, thanks to Suzanne and Courtney to talk about reporting, regional abatement reporting. So I'm going to jump back to that. So specifically with regional abatement reporting, we're talking about, and again, I think evolved is my word of the day, because we talked from the beginning about how do we report on this, and initially with regional abatement, we were talking about planned use of funds, right? There wasn't, you guys had just gotten money, and of course, we couldn't expect that any had been spent yet for you to report out on. So we talked about planned use of funds. And then now that we've got a couple of years of dollars out, we're saying, okay, so more dollars are in process. So we're talking about what's been encumbered, what's in process, what may be, in contracts, right? And that it's still too early to talk about dollars spent, because again, you really have not had a lot of time to actually spend dollars. And so we had a conversation about what should reporting look like, how is reporting going to evolve? And so wanted to be sure that, two, we're consistent in how we talk about dollars. So right now, OASAS has talked about the amounts we've made available. So essentially, in process dollars. And I am recognizing that depending on your lens, how you define certain words may be different, and that it's important that as we identify reporting and reporting terms, that we're consistent in our definition and we have a shared understanding of the definition of certain terms we're using. But we're looking for the 2025, as in next year's reporting will look at dollars that are in process. So not just report out for the public on our web page the amounts that have been made available for each county, but also talk about the amount that is in process. And I think that, one thing that OASAS has had to contend with is this, this want for people to see dollars spent and dollars that are already in the community. And we all know that this is a process and that contracting takes time. And I appreciate the fact that we're all trying to be thoughtful about how we're using this money and where we're putting the dollars, and that takes time. And so recognizing that talking about what's in process is what we can do for now, and that it will take some time yet for us to be able to talk about actual dollars spent, but we're not there yet. So for 2025, we're looking to add to the conversation the dollars that are in process, encumbered, contracted, the term we use and the exact definition of what that means, we will continue to work on together. But know that we will add some additional reporting for next year. That reminds me that I skipped over when we were talking about the regional abatement and the 25 and the letters that went out. Know that that information in terms of dollar amounts changing for 23 and 24 and what has been made available for 25 will be updated on the OASAS webpage. Now that the letters have gone out, hopefully within the next week, we'll have the information on the webpage updated. Just wanted to make sure that you were aware that they have not been updated yet, but they will be updated. So Suzanne, we'll have to decide, or we'll have to find time to get LGUs together to have to get more folks at the table to talk about reporting for 25. So at some point we should do that in the coming, month or two.
Absolutely, Connie, and we can certainly set aside an ASR meeting like we did last week for you to join the membership. I think it was a great conversation, and I think moving forward, that would be the best place to reach us all.
All right. Yeah, because I want to encourage everybody to be part of the conversation and aware of what we're doing, and everybody to kind of be able to participate in that conversation. So however best to get most people there, and Suzanne said she'd bake cookies and send it to every that comes to the meeting. So
you better start baking.
So hopefully we'll see a good showing for that follow-up conversation. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, and you all have been part of conversations that OASAS has had that include LGUs and the jail administrators to talk about the SUD services in jails, and in that conversation, wanting to really understand the use of the state aid dollars that we're providing, talk about the collaboration with OTPs and making methadone available in jails, and OASAS's support, financial support of OTPs in doing that work. Again, with that piece, award letters went out. There are a few conversations we need to have regarding some of the partnerships, just to make sure that we've got the right team in terms of who's doing what with the jails, and that we're looking to get those contracts executed with the OTPs, and develop the scope of work and budgets and so forth in the coming weeks. So in the next few weeks, move on those contracts. At the same time, I told you all that we have dollars we want to make available for the cost of buprenorphine and naltrexone. We've collected a wealth of information from the jails and from the counties with regard to expenses in 2023, in some instances 24 as well. And so we are looking at that data. We do have a small handful of counties we've yet to meet with, but we're looking at that data, and then we will be circling back to offer additional dollars as state aid to go towards the cost of medication. So that process continues. I shouldn't be surprised that it's taking us a good amount of time. That was a lot of meetings, and it was a lot of coordination and work to get everybody to the table for each of those conversations. So that work continues, and hopefully you will be hearing from us sooner rather than later to say, let's have part 2, and we'll be making you aware of the dollars we're making available. Any questions or comments about that item?
This is Ashley Thompson, Oneida County. For the state aid dollars for MAT in the jail, are you going to be identifying specifically what forms of medication we need to be spending those dollars on? Suboxone strips compared to Sublocade, compared to Vivitrol or methadone, or is it just going to be generally at the discretion of the county?
To the best of my knowledge, it's going to be at the discretion of the county. I think that the want is for the jails to be in compliance, making the 3 types of medication available. I think when it comes to the formulation, there are a number of factors that need to be considered. Obviously, dollars available and the demand. There's also, issues in terms of diversion and resources in terms of managing the, folks, managing the population in terms of moving bodies to receive medication and the process for administering medication that are not our purview. That is for, the jail to weigh in on. And so I see it as a conversation between you all and the jail. And that's my expectation. That's my expectation.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's why I was asking.
Connie, I just want to, go back to an earlier statement you made. You referenced that award letters had gone out, contract negotiations were in place. That's specifically to the OTPs who are providing methadone to the jail. And then there's a separate pot of money that will come to the LGU for other MOUD prescriptions and supports. So there's 2 distinct, yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's a complex picture because too, keeping in mind that OASAS has been providing state aid to go towards the cost of SUD services in jails for more than a few years now, right? So you have that pot of money. We're adding the dollars to support OTPs and making methadone available. So you have a second pot of money, and now we're talking about adding a third for the cost of other medication. So we're really, hoping that part of, in having that initial conversation and also in having that second follow-up conversation, everyone's clear. What are all the dollars in play? How are they being used? Who's getting what contracts? And kind of like, how are we covering the bases? I'll also say that, you know, one thing that Rabia Gaynor is looking at with regard, in collaboration with Prime, with regard to the initial pot, that state aid amount that goes towards SUD services, you know, what is the reporting, or how are we understanding from the SUD providers the services they're delivering in the jail? So know that that is also a conversation that we're having. And we looked at each of those three separate efforts, like how are we going to understand and know what's happening in terms of the amount of service delivery, the amount of medication, and wanting to ensure we have reporting mechanisms in place. Obviously looking to not create redundancy. So where we have existing systems, we're looking at Lighthouse, we're looking at the SAMHSA database, we're looking at our CDS, wanting to make sure that where we have a system that covers it, great. We know where we're going to pull the data to understand the service delivery. Where something is missing, we may be implementing a reporting mechanism. Jennifer.
Hi, good morning, thanks. I had to jump on just a few seconds late, and so I'm sorry if you already covered this, but if letters have gone directly to the MAT service providers, were we copied in on that? For the
letters on the OTPs that are working with jails? Yes, you were.
Okay,
were.
great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, and that was something that I think Suzanne's been asking for a while. So we did include LGUs, and it was great to do that because we wanted to ensure that you were in the loop, knew who was doing what, and then, you know, it was actually some of the comments that came from that step that made us say, oh, let's meet with each county. Let's have a conversation and make sure we're all on the same page. And two, a reminder that those letters went out a month and a half ago or so. They went out earlier this summer. Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? We don't have a part two of the meeting. Remember that we are using this as an opportunity, so if there are other topics or issues that OASAS wants to talk to the LGUs about, we're utilizing this meeting in that way. So regional abatement kind of took up the majority of the meeting today. But we don't have a part two. I do anticipate Pat Lincourt will be attending next month, and she has some things she'd like to talk with the LGUs about. So encourage your colleagues, if they are able to join, to know that there's a recording. They can always listen to the recording afterwards. Anything else?
Right.
Deb, anything?
Melissa has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, Melissa, Sheriff, Columbia County. I have a question about the regional abatement funding. We
Sure.
received our letter, you know, and it's broken down by reconciliations for 23, 24, and what's owed in 2025. I'm just wondering, for tracking and reporting purposes, my initial thought was I was lumping the whole total into 2025. Is that okay, or should I be breaking it down by what is identified in the letter as being reconciled for 2023, 2024?
We wanted you to be aware of what dollars were from which year, but as you're reporting going forward, you're talking about what you have in process. So recognizing the dollars don't expire. So you're going to be reporting out on anything that you had from 23, 24, and, you know, next year, 25, that you may have spent. So it's really a rolling amount that that you'll be reporting out on. We're not asking you to report by state fiscal year appropriation.
And Debbie, you'll hop in when I say something wrong, but that's the way the letter was meant to be written, so that you understand, because it's can be coming in a single payment, but you're going to get those 3 payment worksheets, which are telling you which amount goes to which year. So that was like for your knowledge and understanding, and whatever your business practices are, for you to be able to sort it out how you see fit. But the payment should be a total, which is why we offered you also the total.
Yeah, because our state, right, does a 1-year enacted budget, and some of these payments are attached to different appropriations from different enacted budgets, you're going to get 3 payments. Hopefully all 3 of them come at the same time, but there is a chance, just on how our statewide financial system, operates, that you might receive a payment and then the second payment, the third. So we wanted to give you all that backup information to match those payment worksheets that you'll receive. And so, but I think the other points have already been driven home, that you don't have to report by fiscal year. You can report by use of dollars.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too is that if you look at the OASAS webpage coming, hopefully in the next week, you'll see that the amount we made available through regional abatement for 23 is going to increase, as well as 24. And we didn't want folks to say, wait, well, where was my money, right? So if we just gave you a lump sum in 25 and didn't tell you where the dollars were coming from, you could look at the updates and say, wait, OASAS didn't give me all my money for 23, but we did. It was in this payment cycle. So we wanted to make sure that we were as clear as possible with regard to the dollars.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions, concerns, comments, thoughts? This is our time together. All right, I don't see any hands. I don't see any additional comments in the chat. So as always, thank you for joining and being part of the discussion. Look out, if you're the contact, look out. The direct share, restricted direct share report link is going to be sent out this week. I also will talk with Lucia about how we send to each of you who's identified as the contact for the restricted direct share reporting, so that for awareness, you know who that person is. If it's you, you'll know because you get the link, but we'll let you know. So we'll get those emails out to you to let you know who the person is. Appreciate you. We'll see you if you join the community meeting at noon. And otherwise, I hope that you're having a great end of the summer. Yes, the end of the summer is here, unfortunately. All right, take care, everybody.